All right, guys, we're going to be talking today about how to read a statement. The reason why this is important on how to read a credit card statement is because it's going to tell you your balance, your minimum payment, and the most important thing we want to look for is the statement closing date. Now, why do we care about this stuff? Balance tells us how much money we owe. Now, minimum payment lets us know how much we need to pay to be in good standing. So let's say you have a big balance, right? Let's say you spent $20,000. Your balance equals $20,000, but your minimum payment for the $20K, if you're using a 0% credit card, 0% is 1% of the balance. So let's say you have a $20,000 balance. That means your minimum payment is going to be 1%, which equals $200. So now what the bank is saying is, since you have a $20,000 balance, that means you spent that money, you owe us the minimum payment of $200 to be in good standing. So that's good for you because if you spent the full $20,000, hopefully you're putting it to work to create more money. And in return, you're just paying $200 a month. That is very cheap money. Imagine borrowing $20,000, putting it to work, making money off that, and only having to pay the bank $200 back. This is exactly why I love 0% credit cards. But not to get off topic, the last thing we want to talk about is the statement closing date. Now, why is this important? The statement closing date is the day the credit card company will tell the credit bureaus how big of balance you left on the card. When it comes to personal credit, credit utilization, 30% of your credit score. This means how much of your available limit did you leave a balance on? So to give you guys an example, let's say you have a $10,000 credit card, right? If you spend $5,000, that's 50% utilized. Now, when statement closes, if you leave $5K balance, that means your account is 50% utilized. Now, this is bad. The reason this is bad is because when it comes to credit utilization, you want to make sure that you're at 0 to 10% of the credit limit. This means 0% would mean the card is fully paid off. 10% means whatever the limit is, you're only at 10% of that. 50% is very high. It's going to tell the bank that you don't know how to manage your money, and it's going to cause you to get denials, and it's also going to cause your credit score to drop. So the rule of thumb when it comes to credit utilization is 0 to 10% is best, and 11 to 30% is highest you want to be. Anything above 30% is going to negatively impact you. How does it impact? Your credit score will drop. You will look like you can't handle the credit you have. And now banks will deny you, and some other banks may even slash your limits. Now, why would some slash your limits? They slash it because if they see you can't handle your existing limit with another bank, they play on defense. Remember, guys, the banks want to be safe and make sure you pay them back. They're going to slash your limits with them because you are signaling to the banks that you can't handle what you have. So in order for them to be protected, they're going to reduce their limits. And that way you don't repeat what you just did with that bank with this one. So this is why it's important to make sure you always take care of your credit utilization. Because the last thing you want is you did a big purchase, you forgot to pay down your card, and because of that one mistake, your credit cards get slashed down. So remember, credit utilization, keep it from 0 to 10%. Worst case scenario, 11 to 30%. This has no impact to score. If it does, it's very little. This actually boosts your score, and then 30% or higher decreases score. So that's why it's important. Now, the final thing I want to show you guys is how do you find out closing date? Now that you guys know why credit utilization is important and the impacts it can have if you don't pay attention to it, how do you find out when your statement closing date is? That way you can make a payment on time and make sure that you show only what you want to be showing to the credit bureaus. So we're going to look at our statement. I'm going to show you guys an example. This right here is going to be a Capital One card. So as you guys can see, this is a Venture card. So what we want to pay attention to is these dates here, February 4th and March 3rd. February 4th is the start of billing cycle, and March 3rd is the end or close date. That March 3rd, that's what matters. And the good thing about statements is they're usually always going to be the same date of the month. That means when April 3rd comes, that's probably your closing date. When May 3rd comes, closing date. June 3rd, closing date. July 3rd, closing date. So these numbers right here are usually always going to be the same. So now that we know our closing dates, we need to make sure whenever the 3rd of any month comes, we have already paid down our balance big enough, or we have done a big enough payment to pay down the balance to what we want to show the credit bureaus. Now, when do we pay? If we pay on the 2nd, that's not going to give us enough time because most payments take anywhere from 3 to 5 business days to process. So let's say you have that big balance and you pay it down on the 2nd. In your mind, you might think that, okay, my balance is paid off, I should be good. No, because we didn't give enough time for the payments to go through. So what really matters is the due date. The due date for most banks is usually going to be anywhere from 3 to 7 business days before the statement closes. And to give you guys a perfect example, this payment is due on the 28th, which means that the closing statement date is going to be, remember, it's on the 3rd of every month, so this due date for March means that the statement will close in April. April 3rd, this statement will close. And if you see here, this is the 28th. There's the 29th, 30, and the 31st if March has one. And then we got 1st of April, 2nd of April, and 3rd of April. If you guys counted that, that falls between that 3 to 7 business day time frame I mentioned. So usually your payment due date is when you want to make a big enough payment to bring the balance down. So when the 3rd comes, you have paid enough of the balance to what you want to show the credit bureaus. Ideally, 0 to 10% utilization. So that's what you guys have to pay attention to. Stop paying your stuff after the due date. Make sure to pay it on the due date or before the due date and do a big enough payment so you show the balance that you want to show the credit bureaus. So if we come right back to where we were at, as you guys can see, we had a $10,000 credit card and we said we spent $5,000. That means coming on down, if our balance is $5K, we want to bring it down to 10% of the entire credit limit, which means 10% of 10,000 is only going to be 1K. So if we have a 5K balance, we want to bring down this balance to just 1K, which means we got to pay 4,000. 4,000 will bring the balance down to just 1K, which equals 10%. We pay it on due date, and now when statement closes, we show 10% utilization. So that's how you calculate credit utilization. And that's how you make sure that you always take care of your accounts. And remember, this is for each account. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys learned the value of what a statement can do for you. It shows you your balance, it shows you the minimum payment that's due, and it shows you the statement closing date. We care about the statement closing date because that's what's going to report. So when the minimum payment due date comes, this right here, make your payment and make sure you knock down a big enough balance so when the closing date comes, you show everybody that you're only at 10% credit utilization. So your credit can get a boost if you were higher than that, or so you can maintain strong credit on a month-to-month basis. And remember, this is for each individual account. So make sure you're always reading each account and read each credit card statement that you have. That way you know when it's due. That way you know when to make the payment by, and you can maintain strong credit at all times. Hope this helped you guys out. If you guys want to learn more about this, follow this page where I'll be teaching you everything that I know about credit and funding. See you guys on the next one.